Mist Valley Arts and Entertainment. Passion burns. Help us be a bonfire for your soul.
Hey, folks. Dredd from Mist Valley Gaming. You know it, also known as Mist Valley Arts and Entertainment. This is Sports Talk with Dredd. I know we're talking about the Oilers again. You know, I'd love to talk more about the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are actually my favorite NHL team, but I don't get a lot of great news on them because I'm all the way across the continent from them. Oilers are closer to me, and they are my second favorite team, so we're talking about the Oilers again. This time in particular, we're talking about the Pissy comment. That's right, the exchange that happened between center Leon Draisaitl, center and sometimes left wing, Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers, and Hockey Hall of Fame writer, Jim Matheson. If you guys haven't seen it, then why are you watching this? Honestly, most of us who care about this have seen it, read about it, we know what happened. I want to talk about the aftermath a little, because there's been a lot of writers sticking up for Mr. Matheson. So let's get into this. This is January 19th, 2022. Posted at 1 p.m. on Oilers Nation. This is Public Discourse by Robin Brownlee. A sports writer since '83, including stints in the Edmonton Journal and The Sun, co-host of the Jason Greger Show on TSN. Apparently he's got the best Dan lawn on the internet. Wow. Thank you, Mr. Brownlee. Okay. Let's read what he has to say, because we're going to go over this and we're digging into the comments on this as well. There was a time when Tuesday's exchange between, that's yesterday at this time, between post-media sports writer Jim Matheson and Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers could have and likely should have taken place without any public airing of grievances. Give me a moment while I have some coffee. Sorry. Sports Talk by Dredd, with Dredd, brought to you by Starbucks. They would have taken a moment to have a conversation and sort things out instead of getting pissy for public consumption. That conversation, talking to each other as opposed to sniping at each other via technology like Zoom, has slowly been squeezed out of a relationship between media people like Matheson and athletes like Draisaitl over the past decade or so. Matheson, with more than 40 years writing the hockey beat, has been around more than long enough to remember it. Draisaitl, not so much. You can already see as things start to slant, as he's taught slant. Oh, Matheson remembers the good times. Draisaitl doesn't. He's too young. Matheson's got all the experience. Draisaitl doesn't. Matheson must be right. Anyways, the transition from one-on-ones and being able to sit down and chat with players before and after practices and games has given way to one-and-done scrums, where everybody gets pretty much the same stuff. Separation has grown greater with Zoom in these days of COVID. I think the distance played into the back and forth we saw with Matheson and Draisaitl. The days of players and writers sitting down to have a coffee and a chat wasn't about becoming friends. It was about getting to know each other, talking hockey, finding out what makes somebody tick, having a laugh. Maddie was a master at all of it. Not every interaction had to be an interview. Some of the best stuff that might turn into a story down the line was off the record. The interaction also provided players and coaches the opportunity to call a reporter over if they had a problem with something asked, written, or said, as in, WTF was that? I've had many of those over the years, says Brownlee. Teddy Green, Kevin Lowe, Doug Waite, and George Larocque come to mind. None of it for public consumption. Not all those conversations ended with agreement, but you talk it through and move on. Subtitles this part, back and forth. I like it. Subtitles within your article. Very nice, Mr. Brownlee. I actually appreciate that. Diminish or take away familiarity and the opportunity to talk things out, and you get what happened on Tuesday. Namely, a public spat that takes on a life of its own on social media, where most reasonable debate ends up buried under a mountain of memes, poop talking. He didn't write poop. Mr. Brownlee, come on. You're using 4-letter words in your writing. Come on. Poop talking, mountain of memes, poop talking, and piling on by anonymous smart arses. He didn't write arses either. Like the guy with the fake Jim Matheson Twitter account. That aspect is a whole other item. The reality is reporters will ask questions players and coaches don't particularly like. That happened Tuesday. Likewise, writers will get answers they don't like. Excuse me, as we saw. Just a little bit of a cough. That's especially true when a team is in the tank as the Oilers have and have had so few games to play over the last month. Another day and the same beep questions. 3 curse words in your article, dude. Come on. What are you trying to be like Dredd from Miss Valley Gaming? Another eye roll or a dismissive response for all to see. Sure, it's a grind all around at times like this. Talk to media people at the rink, they'll tell you Draisaitl has a habit of making it obvious when he doesn't like a question. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just who he is. He's a little bit more, I don't want to say thin-skinned. He's a little bit more wearing his emotions on his sleeve. That's not difficult to pick up with the Zoom format. It's happened a time or two with Matheson in particular. I got eye-rolled or worse many times over the years, says Brownlee, but that was usually in the room, not on YouTube or social media for all to see. Big difference. I think we get this kind of thing sorted out in a hurry if Leon could pull Matheson aside in the room and beat the shit out of him. No, I'm kidding. Pull him aside in the room where the rink could say, Maddie, I'm so sick of you asking me the same questions. If you keep doing it, you're not going to get much from me. Can you give me a break right now? On the flip side, if Matheson had the opportunity to approach Leon to chat and air any complaints over these last several years, maybe things don't come off the rails as they did when things went kaboom Tuesday. Leon, I know these questions day after day can be a pain in the ass when the team is struggling, but can you work with me here? You and Connor are the go-to guys. What you say matters. Not an option. Things got pissy. Ooh, another one. The bottom line. I like to think my years as a beat man covering the Oilers gives me a grasp of the dynamics of play here. As an aside, I thought bagged milk was the beat man because he eats beets when they lose. Sorry. I have nothing but respect for Maddie, and I know firsthand how he has built a Hockey Hall of Fame career. Oh, here we go again. Based on being fair-minded and honest. That said, for all the changes in the way the game is covered, the heart of the matter remains the same: winning. Players like Draisaitl are competitive as hell. Winning is what drives every player. Losing sucks, and it seems like a lot of the questions suck too when things go sideways. It also sucks to cover a losing team. Mercy, I did plenty of that in the post-parade era. It's amazing how much less reporters and their questions suck when the team is winning. When the wins aren't coming and the only real connection between reporters covering the team and players comes down to asking and answering questions, it can get dicey. That's especially true after so many years of futility in the big picture and the ineptitude at play during this losing skid here and now. When there is nothing else to help you through, everyone is pissy. So, first things, I'm really, you guys know I'm a big Ken Holland fan. Ken Holland comes from my hometown. I'm a fan of what he did in Detroit, although I'm not a Detroit Red Wings fan. In fact, I was a Pittsburgh Penguins fan and had to watch them Detroit beat Pittsburgh in the final, although Pittsburgh then came back and beat Detroit in the final the next year. But I do appreciate what he and that organization did. I really, really wish Ken Holland had not been at scouting meetings right now in Florida. I really wish he'd been in Edmonton and had taken this in hand right away. I think these are areas and times when Kenny needs to do this, and maybe he did from a distance, and I just don't know about it. That's true. But I'm saying what I would have liked to have seen is Kenny come out and say, look, I have talked to Leon. I have talked to Jim Matheson. I have put the two in touch with each other and asked them to apologize to each other and agree to work together. Going forward, we will not have any reporters asking questions who want to attack the player or call them names. If that happens, they will be cut off. They will not be heard from. Again, they will not be welcome. At the same time, players who sit there on that podium, if they're not being attacked, they are there to answer the question. You may not always like the answer they give. It may not always be the answer you're looking for, but they're there to answer the question and do their job at that time, which is the media availability. That's what he needs to do. Ken really needs to work. He's worked very hard at this organization so far. So far, and he's trying very hard to build it from the bottom up. He's trying to build up those draft picks and have that turnover, those young players coming in, filling those roles. And they haven't quite got there yet, but they're getting there. They're getting closer. That's a really important part of a franchise, of a successful franchise. Now, what I really want to see is he and Mr. Daryl Katz, the Edmonton Oilers owner, working harder at making the Edmonton Oilers a family like the Detroit Red Wings organization is. That really needs to be done. We need to circle the wagons, draw all the players and all the players' families in, and be like, we are in this together. We support you as an organization. As long as you're here in an Edmonton Oiler, you are the shits to us. You know, just whatever it takes, whatever has to be done, whatever money's got to get thrown at it, whatever, you know, it's just got to get done. They need a media person. They need a person in charge of media who would come in during the question and answer when the exchange happened between Draisaitl and Matheson, would step up to the mic and go, whoa, 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 whoa. This is all out of line. No more questions. No more questions. We'll deal with this on another day. And put a stop to it right there. That needed to happen. The fact that it didn't was a huge disappointment to me and a huge failing on the Edmonton Oilers organization. And Mr. Holland, you got to fix this. You've got to get those things in place. There needs to be someone to step in there and say, whoa, offside, that can't happen. No. Shutting it down. No. Protect the players. Absolutely. And protect the media, because the media, in their own way, as long as they're playing by the proper rules, are members of the family too. Okay? That, to me, is disappointing that did not happen, and I really want Ken Holland to work at getting that kind of stuff in place. It's going to take a lot to get this Oilers organization to be a family organization like the Red Wings was. They've done very good at bringing the 80s Oilers back into the organization and celebrating a lot of stuff. But what about the 90s Oilers? What about the 2000s Oilers? What about the 2010s to 2020 Oilers? There's about 30 years of Oilers who are just freaking forgotten. Yeah, they didn't do really well, a lot of them. They didn't capture any Stanley Cups. They didn't have a lot of winning seasons. I get it. But are they not important? Come on. You've got to bring everybody back into the organization. And, yeah. Look, I want to move on and go through some of the comments here because some of them are really, really, really good. So, Love the Oilers says, hey, Robin, why are you always so pissy? Talking to Robin Brownlee here. You see, this question isn't appropriate here. Why would it be when speaking to a professional athlete? Stop making excuses for Matheson. His behavior was highly unprofessional and completely classless. End of story. I do agree. I'm not a Jim Matheson hater. I'm not a Robin Brownlee hater who wrote this article. I agree with this, though. It was wrong. It was wrong of him. And if he can't reach out to Leon himself, the team needs to put the two of them together so they can make amends, because that's important. So Steel Panther says, good name, by the way. Obviously, there's a history between the two. Leon was defensive right from the start with Matheson's questions. When he was asked if he'd like to elaborate, Leon said, you do that, you know everything. My guess is Matheson has pissed him off in the past, and Leon wanted to have nothing to do with him. If Leon is more likely to be blunt and rub people the wrong way, especially right now during these questions, don't trot him out as often as you'd have. Pare back his media availability somewhat. He's still going to come out there at times, just not as often. Godot 10 says, how fair-minded was Matty in his question to Costigan early this year? It is not one question. He has not kept up with sport journalism. And I would agree with that as well. He's starting to bring a history to the Oilers of asking extremely personal, extremely inappropriate questions designed to get under people's skin and get them angry. That's garbage. That's not journalism. That's garbage. That's tabloid garbage. So he may be a Hockey Hall of Fame writer, but whatever turn he's taken for whatever reason, especially this year, has not been a good one. So, says Leon, Cootie Dan says Leon's salary equates to 700,000 every 2 weeks. He should be able to take a few tough questions from the media, even if the questions are redundant or repetitive. Leon did say everything is wrong, and that can't be a good sign for the team. I agree with that last part. I don't think your salary necessarily means that you should get crapped on by a media member, though, which is what happened. Bills said, responding to Cootie Dan there, the question wasn't tough. It was not appropriate. I agree. You asked the coach or GM what is wrong with the team, not an assistant captain. I think I know what he's getting at. Ask individual players about their play, their lines, play, etc., not what's wrong with the team. The question about him showing his frustration would have been fine if it had been asked correctly, but it wasn't. He was asked with a sarcastic tone, and Leon answered it with sarcasm. I don't blame him one bit. So, asking Leon Draisaitl, what is wrong with the team? Can you tell me one thing that is the one thing that you guys in the room think is wrong with the team? It's asking him to squeal on either the coaches or the players in the room and create a division and friction. And Leon Draisaitl is smart. Smart. He played in the town next to mine. He played in the town I grew up in. He's smart. No, I didn't grow up in Germany. When he played in the WHL for a year. He picked up on that right away, and he knew it. He knew what was being asked of him, and he did not bite. He did not bite. He was not going to throw the team under the bus. And yeah, he reacted with kind of a, what the fuck are you asking me that for kind of attitude. And I don't blame him. I wish he had more tact, but Leon's Leon. But anyways, at least this gets us out in the open because maybe it needs to get in the open. Mr. Matheson at this point needs a slap on the wrist. He needs a slap on the wrist. Like, I don't know what the Oilers are allowed to do with the media. Are they allowed to ban a media player? What if you said, you know what, you're not, Mr. Matheson, you talked to Leon, you guys worked this out, you worked it out, good. Now I'm telling you, it was inappropriate. This is twice this has happened. You did it with Koskinen too. This is not happening again. For the next 2 weeks, you are not allowed to ask any questions or have anything to do with this team. That's what I do. Captain Canada 94. Hey, Ryan Smith says money is 100% irrelevant. That's like saying he makes a lot of money, so I could trash him and his family on Twitter because that's what he signed up for as a pro hockey player. That's not necessarily saying that, but I get what you're saying. Grant says Matheson acted like a POS. He did. Take It Dry says there's a difference between answering a tough question and being put in a no-win situation from a reporter looking for a story. Matheson was looking for Leon to either throw someone, probably Koskinen, under the bus, or to give Jim shit. Either way, he gets a story. By the way, Leon gave him an answer. He just didn't like the answer. Cowboy Bill says this whole thing needs to be put to bed. I disagree with that. Cowboy Bill, I disagree with that. It doesn't, because we need to keep turning this over with a spade until we expose it. We'll get into that later. The thing is, it's not about Leon or the Edmonton Oilers. It's about Jim Matheson, the Hockey Hall of Fame writer, who has a very high opinion of himself, and the reality of the situation is he should know better than to push the issue as he did. Rob Brownlee, would you have conducted yourself in that manner? Maybe as a teenager, perhaps. I don't know if Jim Matheson has a high opinion of himself or not. But yes, he should have known better than to push the issue as he did. He's got an axe to grind. I agree. I don't know why. I could guess, but I don't know why. So. Grumpy Koala says, you've been critical when I said in the past reporters are not asking enough hard questions and that we can't have it both ways. Well, I agree with that. The questions to Draisaitl were fair, but rather inappropriate in terms of syntaxis and attitude. It's damn more interesting with his actual bits of conversation. Draisaitl shut it down, and Matheson didn't find an elegant way to highlight it. Not the end of the world, but both gentlemen could have come out of the exercise in better light. Hercules says it was a loaded question, and he got a loaded answer. Leon could have handled it better. Fed him the generic hockey interview answer, but I fully understand Leon's frustration. Being stuck in a slump and fielding questions as to why you're sucking has to be pretty annoying, especially for a team that has only had a sniff of the playoffs in 15 years. Here we go. So once in a while says, agree with most of the sentiment in the comments below. Been saying it for a long time. The Edmonton media causes a lot of problems for the Oilers. Very, very true. Makes it harder to attract talent to the team for sure. Debatable, but probably true. Us fans contribute poorly in this regard as well. In many ways, the media is the way it is because of the fans. It's a quagmire of a conversation. Yeah. Take a Dry says, Robin, you're probably one of the top guys in this gig locally for certain that offers a fair look at each situation. With that being said, I don't know. This doesn't feel like it's it. Matheson was being incendiary, and Leon Draisaitl basically said, no dice. You said it yourself, he makes it pretty obvious whether or not he's going to give you anything worthwhile. So while yes, I don't doubt that the modern Zoom era of journalism makes things difficult, this really probably wasn't one of those situations. Especially when we zoom out for the clip that was shared ad nauseum and look at the entire media availability. But beyond how any of us feel about this spat in particular, it feels kind of telling in the way that Jim is being defended, and by the people defending him, and it usually starts with Hockey Hall of Fame writer. Seems a lot of the defense comes from the fact that he is either a longtime journalist for the team, is part of the Hockey Hall of Fame's media wing, or has a history of being fair. But to be fair, how much of that history is just that, history? We hold these players accountable by their actions and most recent play, as we should. Just like how we hold coaches and GMs to their recent performance. But why should they be any different for anyone else in the industry? None of these articles about the Draisaitl-Matheson feud have started with Hart Trophy winner Leon Draisaitl. On top of that, this feels like the second time Matheson's been in the public's eye this season, with the first time being him all but telling Mikko Koskinen, you aren't wanted here. You said it yourself, all the changes in the way the game is covered, heart of the matter remains the same, winning. Maybe despite his long career, this is a pretty good example of how changes to the way the game is covered have passed Matheson by. Because either he was being antagonistic and looking for a gotcha moment with Leon, as most fans seem to believe, in which case maybe he needs his press pass revoked. Maybe he wasn't looking to be antagonistic, as he and many journalists seem to suggest, but if that's the case and he can't read those obvious cues or do the job the same way he used to, well, maybe he needs his press pass revoked. A couple more of these. Take a Dry says, just to add, there's been a lot of talk about leadership. And even Matheson's second question was directed at Leon showing frustration. You'd always expect another player on the other team to try and needle away at an important player like Draisaitl. But I doubt he expects the sort of friendly fire Matheson lobbed his way. I mean, we know the team stinks right now. We know they can't win. Does asking the same question 3 times in 3 slightly different ways really change anything? Either way, countless ink has been spilled regarding what does or rather doesn't make Edmonton an attractive destination for players to come to. And we sit here and wonder, is it taxes? Is it losing? Is it the intense media scrutiny? All the while sitting here and watching what felt like a pretty obvious attempt to bait the player from one of the most long-standing members of the media. I mean, maybe that's not the full answer, but it can't be discounted. Yeah, those guys get paid very handsomely to do what they do and to answer the questions that the media poses. But I suggest that being fair means not being antagonistic, and I have a hard time watching that clip and not believing that's exactly what Jim was doing. Jay Not Jay says, probably right. I expect a little more maturity from a guy with Matheson's experience. He didn't like the answer, okay, but why attack the player with his pissy question? What did this get him? How did this set up future interviews with Leon or the rest of the team? I understand he's frustrated too with trying to do a job, but what after nope from Draisaitl did Matheson say that was anything but antagonistic and escalating? Captain Canada 94. Probably been said many times, Jim was offside here. Should be held to a higher standard in media availability as he is the professional in that interview setting. On the contrary, Leon is held to a higher standard on the ice. Jim 100% escalated when he didn't like an answer from Leon, which was in fact a mature professional answer. Jim wanted Leon to put the light on one area that is causing the slide. Imagine if Leon says, our goalie, our defense, our PK, our PP, our top players, our bottom players, etc. He didn't throw anyone under the bus, and he stated we need to be better at everything. And Jim pours gas from there. Extremely unprofessional, and Jim needs to have his media credentials revoked. I'm going to back up a little bit on that one. I don't think he needs to be revoked, but I do think he needs a big slap on the wrist and a talking to. Brownlee, you have the credibility of being in the positions. You can understand this better than most. I asked this question with no disrespect to media intended. What is the media's purpose? Is it to serve the organization? Is it to serve the fans? Is it to serve the player? Is it to unite both? Is it to generate clicks and views and readership? Media in this town for the last 15 years certainly hasn't united the groups. Fans are beyond frustrated and more disengaged than ever. Now, that is certainly due to the product being bottom of the league in a results-driven business, but the media exacerbates. Yeah, they do that. The divide. Exacerbates. Whatever that is. Media and the organization should have had many eye-openers over the last 15 years. But this is just another embarrassment along the way. My mental health has improved just by not being invested in becoming a tier 2 fan. G says, Matheson's question, in my opinion, was a sad attempt to get Leon to slip up and say something specific about the lack of depth or abysmal goaltending or questionable coaching and management. Unless you're interviewing a Sean Avery type clown, you never get the fodder you're looking for. He asked basically the same question multiple times to further annoy and then drop the incredibly unprofessional Pissy remark. This from a veteran Hockey Hall of Fame reporter. What a total loser. Leon was way too kind and restrained. Pete Oilerson says, Jim is not a full-fledged member of the Hockey Hall of Fame as you media weenies keep professing. He won the Elmer Fudd Memorial Award, which is sponsored by the Hockey Hall of Fame. The award is voted upon by hackbeat reporters such as yourself. Not, I repeat, not by the 18-member Hockey Hall of Fame induction committee. Stolen valor moment for sure. I don't know about that. But I find this all very interesting. This comes back to, again, media and some fans being stirred up by the media. Because clickbait, it's easy to get the angry fans, the loud, stupid fans, to click on your articles and follow along with you. March with their torches and pitchforks in behind you as you approach the gates of the Oilers. There's too many crap articles written. There's too many people who think, I'm not calling out Brownlee on this, or necessarily Jim Matheson. There's just too many of those kind of reporters and people who are covering the Oilers, with hatred and stirring up fans to hate them. And they've got their own agenda, and it's hurting the team. And again, I'm calling on Ken Holland. You've got to do something about this. You got to understand that this is a problem, and you need to do something about it. It's time to figure it out. It's time to make the Edmonton Oilers a family, not just a team. Just like your Detroit Red Wings. So, Kenny, do that. And I stand by Leon Draisaitl. Yeah, he reacted, but he reacted to a really, really unfair question, comment, and finger pointing at him, name calling, that he never should have been subjected to in a media availability. And again, Kenny Holland, you needed a media person who ran out there and covered the microphone and called this thing off at that moment. That needed to happen. And if it's not somebody there who's willing to do that next time this happens, because it will happen again if you let this, then I wash my hands of it and I say, then you're probably not the man for the Oilers organization. And I believe you are, Kenny, but you've got to do this. You've got to do this. You want this to be a winning organization? Make it a family like the Detroit Red Wings. Circle the wagons. Make it a family thing. Take charge, Kenny. Take charge. So, yeah. Jim Matheson versus Leon Draisaitl. Hockey Hall of Fame member called the Hart Trophy winning Leon Draisaitl Pissy after asking him to tattle on his teammates or his coaches, staff, or his GM and call somebody out and throw them under the bus. Sad. So that's been Sports Talk with Dredd. All about the Pissy conversation. For Miss Valley Arts and Entertainment, also called Miss Valley Gaming, my name is Dredd. Peace out, everybody.